Welcome back to another week and another episode of the What Everybody podcast. Jonny here in the third person, as usual. Boy, we have a cool episode for you today. What the heck is going on the Sunset Strip? Ryan's going to tell us all about it. Jonny tells us about the time he toured in Ukraine. And later, coming in from our favorite place for glaciers, Sweden, drummer for the one and only Glenn Hughes, Mr. Pontus Engborg. So sit back with a second helping of meatballs, the Swedish kind, some absolute vodka, even though it's made in France, and enjoy the show. So with no further ado, Ryan and Jonny.
Hey, buddy. Air drums. Air drums. Give me some air drums. Nice chest hair, dude. Nice chest.
I was so worried this morning. I almost texted you because I was putting on the red because I put on the red flannel. But the last time I did, I've only worn a red flannel once in the 40-something episodes here. And the same day that I wore it, you wore it. And the funny thing is, my backup
42.
was, I was going to go, you know what? Maybe I'll just wear my white T-shirt because Ryan always wears you almost always wear a flannel. So I'm like, he's going to wear a flannel. And
50-50.
Whatever the case is, a lot more than me. And I was like, well, here's a white T-shirt. Now, in hindsight, I think I made the right decision. I wore the flannel. You did not.
Yeah,
you wore the white
T-shirt,
and I did not. It would have been awesome had I worn the white shirt because that would have been me not following my gut, and it would have been another example of always follow your gut. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that leads me into segue of following my gut.
Can I ask a real question? Can I ask a real question? Who cares? Yeah. Who cares?
About what? About what?
And that's not it. It's not saying that, like, who cares about what you just said. It's saying, who cares what shirt you have on? You know? Who cares what shirt I have on?
Well, that's the thing is, it's funny coming from you because I don't care, and you're always the guy who seems to care.
Well, I care about what I look like, but I care about what I look like.
You're wearing the same sweatshirt as you wore last week. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, those.
What do you mean you only wear one pair of shoes?
I like to bust your balls, but if you have a flannel on and I have a flannel on, who cares? Anyways, I like the bold move of not having a shirt on under it, though. That is all chesty.
Is this all? Does this look weird?
You're so chesty.
Is the light gleaming off of my tits?
Yeah, you need a little spray tan.
Do I need to go like this? Get a little bit more clean?
No, man. Let it hang out. It's all good.
I am. All right. Well, we're moving past this. We're moving past this. I want to say hello and welcome back to the What Everybody podcast, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you
What's up,
for joining us again, episode 42. Do you know when I was a kid, that was the street number of my house that I grew up in, 42 Michael Road.
Cool.
Yep, just a little side note there.
Cool.
But hey, dude, I'm really excited because later on today, coming in from fucking Sweden, one of my fucking favorite places. I'm saying fucking a lot. Why not?
Yeah, dude.
Sweden, one of my favorite places.
Yeah.
And Pontus Engborg is coming in. He is a drummer for Glenn Hughes.
We got a guest. That's why I started off air drumming, man.
That's it. That explains it. I was like, what the fuck's he doing? Makes no sense to me. Hello, everybody, again. And I want to talk to you, Ryan Harris, about the Viper Room is closing down.
Yep. Yeah, they're closing it, man. Closing it. Well,
Viper Room is closing down. I wish we would have known this when Ashley Montgomery was on.
Well, let me ask you, because it sold a couple years ago, so it's not new news, but of the past couple of days now, it got pushed through that they're going to build. It's going to be like 140 hotel rooms. It's going to be 40-some residential places, and then like a restaurant on the ceiling or on the rooftop.
Well, it's definitely been something that has been told. I'm sure it's been told to you. I've just, talking to the staff at the Viper Room through the years, we knew this was coming. This is not a surprise that this is happening. What is surprising is that I was under the impression that they were going to leave the actual Viper Room and build around it. But now we have learned that they're just going to put a new version of the Viper Room inside this building when it's built.
That makes me.
Listen, that's all I got to say. Something has happened over the last few years. They got rid of the House of Blues on Sunset, and they keep building these like really big hotelish like foo-foo like type places. It's not.
Let's call them what they are. obstructions to the view of the city.
Well, yeah, but they're also to a different kind. Okay, so the Sunset Strip and this part of the Sunset Strip was like the rock and roll section. You know, you had the whiskey, you had the Roxy, and you got the Rainbow, which are still there and will still remain there. But you also used to have the Cat Club, which isn't there anymore. And now the Viper Room is going to be different. And all the places they are building, the place they built like right there at the corner of like, was it Doheny? There's a huge hotel at La Cienega and Sunset. And then
La Cienega.
Where the House of Blues was, there's another new huge
hotel
thing there. And now what they're doing with the Viper Room, it's just they're changing the whole dynamic of what the Sunset Strip was. They're like almost affecting the history by putting all of this non-rock and roll type thing there. It was like you would see guitars hanging on the like light poles and stuff. Like now it like doesn't quite represent the same way.
Well, so let me ask you, it's not an original question, but if you put up hotels and you tear down these places to build more hotels and more hotels, what's there to come visit? What's there to stay at the hotel for now at this point, you know?
Well, the selling point is that you're saying on Sunset Strip around that, the selling point would be like, you're near the Roxy, you're near the Comedy Store, you're near, you know, whatever.
Comedy still kills it. Comedy still does really well.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to get rid of those places, but like it also gives you a really nice view. Like you say, it ruins the view of LA, but like if you're staying in one of those rooms that's facing south, you've got the best view of the city. You can see downtown. You can see the ocean. You can see Compton.
Well, did you see what it looks like, the proposition for the new structure where the Viper Room is? Did you see this? Look, let me pull it up.
I'm horrified for what you're about to show me because you don't sound like it looks good.
Well, you tell me. There you have it. That's the proposed structure. So if you're listening, it's a picture of Sunset Boulevard in Larrabee, Sunset and Larrabee, where the Viper Room currently sits. They have what looks like it's bullshit.
They're getting rid of all the liquor stores, the 2 liquor stores there too. Those places have been there since the fucking 30s. What they're doing to, I really think this is fucked up. It's bullshit. Because that is the ugliest fucking thing ever. The fuck is that? Why do they have the grass on the fucking side like that? It looks
like a parking garage with some weird.
It is horrible.
It's an eyesore.
So that goes more to my point of what I'm saying about just changing the whole fucking dynamic of what the Sunset Strip stood for.
So I have a question. I watch HGTV, like the flipper flop shows and all that stuff. It's fascinating. But the other day, they're working on a house, and I say this because it's in California. They're working on a house that was considered historic. So when they're renovating, there's only so much that they can do to the exterior because they have to preserve the history of this house they were working on. Does none of that exist with, like, the culture of Hollywood?
I'm sure it does, but I'm sure when you line the right pockets with the right amount of money, though, I don't know about that law. I don't know if that's what happened. That's just me fucking bro sciencing it out. But you know, the reality of it is, like, why would they do that? Like, if you Google, we went down this path, the history of the Viper Room and how many different places it's been all the way back to the fucking 40s.
Yeah. Check this out. This is another confusing thing to me. Maybe you could help me sort it out. Elise Eisenberg, chief of the West Hollywood Heights Neighborhood Association, says she believes the high-rise will have too much going on that's set to be a home to a hotel of 113 rooms, 40 residences, and a rooftop restaurant. She also noted that the new development will be problematic for the Strip. Everything is going to be backlogged. It'll take 40 to 50 minutes to get into the property. So before it even happens, they're acknowledging it's going to be a problem.
Well, that lady probably was one of the people who voted against it and was outvoted because her pockets were probably not lined.
That makes, I guess.
I mean, seriously, there's no way they didn't think about that.
Times are changing. Times are changing, my friend.
Times are changing, and you know, when it comes down to it, you know,
you want to try that again?
When it comes down to it, you know. Put a positive spin on it, Harris. I want to see you put a positive spin on it.
A positive spin on the Viper. Maybe it'll turn out well. I don't know. We here, I'll put a positive spin on it. Here's my positive spin for the Viper Room. We got to play there one more time before it closes. We'll document it on the podcast. And then I guess we'll wait a year while they build this new thing.
When are they tearing it down?
We'll compare it to the new, supposedly next year.
Next year, meaning?
I read next year.
23? Dude, they've been saying this shit forever, man. I don't know.
I know.
Like it seriously has been like no less than 5 years have I heard that this company from Las Vegas bought the Viper Room. And
yeah. It just all comes back to my point of what's there to do when you tear all these places down, you know? Sure, they're going to, House of Blues.
Every one of those hotels has a dance club.
Has a live music venue in it.
Every one of those places, but that live music venue's not fucking open. There's no music venue there. Every one of those places has clubs. I tell you something, I've seen those places. They're like really like nice. It's just becoming way more high end on the strip. It's just like you'll have the Rainbow, and even the Roxy was bought by Golden Voice, which is a big, Live Nation's competitor here in LA.
Yeah. It's just really strange to me that there's not some sort of representation of the history that does exist, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the music scene and all that.
Plenty of documentaries about it.
And maybe I'm missing, like we joke about bro science a lot. Maybe there is some of that going on, but it feels like things are changing.
No joke. It's crazy. And we think we have it bad. Oof. People in Ukraine, my heart goes out to them. I don't want to talk too much about it, but I do want to acknowledge that the last tour that I did before the pandemic, we went to Eastern Europe. We were in Ukraine. We were in Ukraine, Poland, Hungary. And like Ukraine seemed very far away before I went. And then when I went, and it was definitely unlike any place I'd ever been. It seemed like, some things were different.
In what way?
A little behind in a way. Like I felt like their transit buses.
Time warp.
Yeah, the transit buses looked like they were from like the 90s, or you went to the mall. We played this gig. It was in the venue was in a mall, and it seemed like a mall from like the 80s or something. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't in Kyiv, so
that's
the biggest city.
In a sad way, like it seemed in a time warp. Like was the time warp because it could be cool. Like, hey, go back to the.
It was cool because I felt like I was a little kid, but it was weird because the country hadn't advanced. Yeah. As quickly, like, for obvious reasons, though.
Remember Euro Trip where the guy pulls up and he's like, "Where's the beef?"
right. But I wasn't in Kyiv. How do you pronounce it? Is it Kyiv?
I think it's Kyiv. Kiev.
Yeah, Kiev. That's it, dude. I'll tell you something. I don't just say this because what's going on in the world. I would have said this to you, 6 months ago. They're some of the best shows I ever played for the sole fact that the appreciation the people had. Yeah. That we were there was like they were just like like it was like crazy. It was like I remember the first show was intense because we played Warsaw on a Saturday, I guess, or maybe it was a Friday, and then the next night we were in the Ukraine, and they warned
Warsaw's
us like
in Poland, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Which is weird because I was expecting what I saw in the Ukraine is what I was expecting to see in Warsaw, and I couldn't be any more wrong. It was the most modern looking fucking city on the planet.
Really?
It was amazing. But the guy in the other band, the band that we were playing with, he's like, dude, you probably have a few hours to get over the border. Well, that few hours to get over the border, it was 9 hours to get out of Poland, and then another 2 hours to get into the Ukraine, which...
Was it 9 hours because you were waiting, or was it 9 hours because it was just that far? Wow.
Waiting. It was a 4 hour drive to the border or something, or 3 hour drive to the border. And then we waited 9 hours. I had this tune-in radio thing on my phone, an app, where I could listen to the Eagles games. And I listened to the whole entire Eagles game, the pregame show, the whole game, and the post game. And they lost to the Dolphins, who were a terrible team. Anyway,
at least you had Wi-Fi.
Right. Well, no, I wasn't using Wi-Fi. I had my phone on. But it was brutal. And then they ripped our shit. They ripped the Sprinter apart. And then we get into Ukraine. They rip our Sprinter apart. And they're like, do you have this? You don't have this. And then we had to slip money in our passports. Wait, they did it twice? Yeah, both countries did it. But we ended up getting that first show, ended up getting there 4.5 hours late. And it was like they sold 120 tickets to the show or something. But dude, it was fucking insane.
Yeah. It's almost the culmination of this hassle or hectic day, and then you finally get to where you need to be to do what you want to do, and that pulls through.
That was a perfect example of a day where you're like, why do I do this shit? Sitting at the border for that long to get across, to have to fucking get scammed by the Ukrainian border patrol. Yeah.
But it's also a perfect example.
I don't want to talk shit about that because they're going through what they're going through. But I mean, let's call a spade a spade. That is what
it's
happened.
Also a perfect example of why you do what you do, though, because you went through the hassle and you had a great show that you're here now talking about, you know?
Oh, dude, yeah. That whole night ended up being great. I learned a couple of cool things that night. We ended up going out to this really modern pizza place afterwards and then getting bottles of vodka. And the way they drink vodka there is you take a shot of vodka and you follow it immediately with apple juice. And you taste nothing except apple juice. It kills the taste immediately. Immediately. It's too scary. Too scary. So our promoter, Sasha, he traveled with us to be our interpreter and stuff and take care of all the business stuff while we were in there. And, he traveled in our vehicle with us, and he stayed with us in hotel rooms, actually. And the snoring guys slept in one room. And we were called Snore Team 6.
Guys.
Yeah, we're called Snore Team 6, always vigilant. And Sasha was Sasha was an honorary member of Snore Team 6. And
have you not to cut you off?
Yeah.
As I cut you off, but have you spoken to him since
I have
since the war's gone down?
I have. The last time I talked to him, he was doing good. I mean, his first text, it really puts it in perspective, It's just like, dude, we're doing okay. We're trying to kill as many Russians as we can. It's just like, whoa.
So did he join the military or whatever that deal is?
I don't think people are joining the military. I think it's just like if you're a man, you're fighting.
Yeah.
And they want to. It's not like you're being drafted. It's like the men want to fight. This is our country. We're not doing that. Yeah. And he's checked in with me. We've gone back and forth, but I did reach out to him a few days ago after they did invade Odessa the other day or something, and I reached out to him, and I haven't heard back. So, but he takes a few days to get back.
He's actually fighting, and
he said they were making Molotov cocktails, and he lives in an important place in town in the center of Odessa, so he's had to throw Molotov cocktails. Crazy. They don't fuck around. I mean, Sasha, he's funny.
Their response to this has been pretty admirable. I read a story about there was so women with children were allowed to leave the country, but there's a group of women that once they got their kids secured, they went back and they're like, "We're going to fight with our men."
It's amazing.
Yeah,
I saw this couple that were civilians fighting, but they had a little wedding. They were had their uniforms on and holding their guns and getting married.
Wow,
stuff.
Crazy.
I mean, but in the sad part of it though, is that lots of people are dying and they are bombing. They bombed a children's hospital yesterday. They're doing crazy. War's crazy in itself, but they're committing war crimes.
Yeah, whenever you bring kids into anything, man, it's
and civilians, they're like bombing civilians trying to leave the country and stuff. Not on the highways, but they're just bombing. People are out trying to get out of town, and they're fucking trying to legitly hit them.
No words. No words.
No words, and it's very sad as we roll around here. And what's another sad thing here is the people of Russia. The people who live in Russia who don't support what's happening. They lost McDonald's yesterday or something. They've lost.
There's a bunch of stuff, dude.
They've lost Apple. They've lost Samsung. They've lost
Visa,
Coca-Cola.
MasterCard.
They've lost Visa, MasterCard. It's insane. IKEA. Speaking of IKEA, enough of this negative shit, dude. I'm fucking transitioning this shit right out of there.
My
and
man.
We're going, my man. let's bring this. God, we got doom and gloom here. All right,
I know.
got Pontus Engborg. Is it Engborg? We're gonna have to ask him. It's coming up.
Engborg.
Coming up right now. Out of that dark mess, we got Pontus Engborg all the way from Sweden. He is the drummer for Glenn Hughes and a bunch of other cool stuff. I know him from when we used to go to MI together. We'll tell that story when we get in there. Some really cool stuff there. So, Ryan, why don't you welcome Pontus on in here?
Let's go to Sweden. There's Pontus. Hey, buddy. What's up, my man?
There he is. Hey, buddy.
The guy.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Can
Loud
you
and
hear us?
clear.
All right.
Ryan, this is Pontus. Pontus, this is Ryan.
Hey, Ryan.
We met at Sweden Rock Festival a couple years back. I'm not sure if you
Oh, we
remember.
did?
Yeah. But officially good to see you again. Thanks for doing the podcast. It's good to see you, man.
My bad. I forgot you were there with me, Ryan.
And I was completely shit-faced.
Yeah. I remember.
Shit-faced.
I remember.
Yeah.
And your girlfriend was like, he never gets like this.
But I did.
But dude, well, let me fill the people in on this, because this is actually like the best story ever. I know Pontus because we went to Musicians Institute together, and I had not seen Pontus for 14 years when I ran into him backstage at Sweden Rock Festival. We were both there playing, and it was like the most amazing thing. Now, granted, he was hammered, so I wonder if he would have been as happy to see me if he was sober, but it was an amazing experience because, you don't know this, for years, I'd been going to Sweden. And the first time I went there in 2006, I knew you were from Gothenburg. And
Right.
I was at the Gothenburg Street Festival, I guess. They have it every summer in August.
Sure.
And I was there, and we got there the night before, and I was talking to some guy, and I was like, I went to music school with this guy named Pontus. I don't know what his last name is. However, he's a very large man with straight blonde hair. He's like, oh, Pontus Engborg. Yeah, he's out on tour right now. I was like, fuck. I was not expecting him to know who you were. And then when he told me who you were, I still was very suspicious if this guy was just fucking with me. I'm not going to lie. So Pontus and I go back years now, and we've only seen each other now twice since we were at MI. I'm dying to know, like, A, how you ended up in MI, but B, what have you been doing since? We've done some research. We know you played with Glenn Hughes and all that for quite a period of time. We'll get that down the line. But what happened after MI ended? We get done, then what goes on?
What happened after MI? Well, I enrolled at the recording artist program, but I didn't have time to go to school because I had gigs,
Yeah.
I played 3 shows a night. I mean, a day, I
Really?
could, a jazz trio in Beverly Hills, lunch gig, then, 6 o'clock, Sherman Oaks, rock, and then took my, what kind of car did I have? A stakeout car, the old Chevy Caprice, right?
Yeah.
The shit,
The old cop car.
Exactly.
How'd you get your drums into that fucking thing?
Huge.
Are you kidding me?
Well,
It was a shit.
It's huge, but I guess it all goes. I'm so used to putting my seats down and having like a station wagon. I guess you'd put it on the back seat.
I could fit a big band in there.
The harder question is not how'd you fit your drums in it, it's how'd you park it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
In Hollywood.
Yeah.
I got that down. Seriously. No, so I played a lot. So this is actually a funny story. You remember Masaki, the guitar player, the teacher at MI?
Yeah.
Right.
Japanese guy.
Exactly. He was the head of the recording artist program at the time, and so I couldn't go to school. I'm like, Masaki, I gotta play. I came here to the States to fulfill my dreams to play, and I'm finally here. I can finally say that I'm a full-time musician, so I don't have time to go to school. Now, Masaki said, well, I think it's a huge mistake. And fast forward to 2011, 12, I think. I was in Japan with Bobby Kimball from Toto, Steve Algari from Journey, Bill Champlin from Chicago, and Fergie Fredrickson, the late Fergie Fredrickson, who I miss deeply, from Toto as well. So I did that tour, and of course, I hit up Masaki because he moved back to Japan, right? So I hit him up and said, "Hey, I'm coming to Japan. Do you want backstage tickets, and you want to hang?" So he came to the show. He saw me play Hold the Line, Don't Stop Believing, all those hits,
all the hits,
all the classics.
He was backstage. He was backstage after the show, and he didn't say anything then about the memory that we both shared, that I did a huge mistake not being in school. But then I came back to Japan with Glenn and Doug Aldridge
Oh, cool.
as a trio, and of course.
How did Doug Aldridge get into that? Like, because you were in Japan with those other guys, where did Doug come into the picture? Was he part of that too? Was Doug Aldridge in Japan with you guys at the same time?
I was with the Glenn Hughes band.
Oh, the Glenn Hughes band. Okay.
Yeah. So then Masaki told me, I remember when I told you that you did a huge mistake not, going to school. And I'm just going to say, I'm here. I've seen you twice in Japan with all my favorite singers. And now you're here with Glenn Hughes and my favorite guitar player, Doug Aldridge. You did good, buddy.
Yeah.
You got that.
Never
validation.
listen to me again,
Yeah. How did you end up in Glenn Hughes? How did that come to be? Because that's a really big deal. That's when I saw you at Sweden Rock. That's when you were playing. And the ironic thing is, I didn't know that you were playing with him, and I watched you play that day, not even knowing that I was watching you play that.
Oh, you watched the show?
I just happened to be like, it was like, I didn't see the whole thing, but I saw parts of it because, I was doing my thing. But
I saw the whole thing. It was killer.
Yeah. I mean, it was
job.
Glenn Hughes. I had to check something out, but I didn't know you were playing with him because I hadn't seen you yet. So I watched you play and not even know. I might have even been like, oh, drummer's badass. And then I saw you backstage later that night, which I love telling that story because what a great story. Anyway, so Glenn Hughes. How did this come to be? Because that's huge. It's fucking Glenn Hughes, the voice of fucking rock, right?
Yeah. Well, I did a session for this Danish singer back in 2008, maybe. The keyboard player, one of my best friends, one of the best keyboard players on the planet, Dan Lindén. He asked me to do that session. So we drove down to Copenhagen and did that session with her. So I got to thank Dan for asking me to do that session because otherwise I wouldn't have met Søren Andersen, who was the producer for that session. And now, as maybe Søren is the guitar player for the Glenn Hughes solo band.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't know who Glenn was.
But you had heard of Deep Purple, obviously.
So I did that session, and fast forward 2 years later, he messaged me on Facebook. And
oh, wow, 2 years have gone by.
I have a gig for you. Glenn Hughes wants you to be his drummer, his new drummer. And I said, okay, cool.
How did he know, though? Like he hadn't seen you play, had he? Yet?
You mean Glenn?
Yeah.
He actually, I have a fusion band called Confusion. And so
that's clever.
It's a great name.
Actually, what happened? Thank you. What happened was Glenn and Søren went to the NAMM show together, and they were watching Chad Smith play. And Glenn said to Søren, "I want you to find me a drummer that plays from the heart, just like Chad." He didn't want a copy of Chad. He wanted a drummer that played from the heart and So he said, I know exactly the drummer that you're looking for. His name is Pontus Engborg, and he's in Sweden. And he lived in the States, so he knows, the business. And so check him out. So Glenn went on YouTube and saw my band play a shitty-ass club in Gothenburg. Fusion shit, freeform,
Right. Yeah.
not rock,
Yeah.
But
And
he saw what he was looking for.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
So when CERN asked me if I wanted to do the gig, I said, okay, where, when, and how much? and he said, Pontus, it's actually a bit bigger than a gig. It's Glenn Hughes. And he called me up afterwards. So he wanted to talk to me.
Who Glenn called?
No, CERN. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
And he could hear on my voice that I didn't know who Glenn was.
Wow.
So he said, "Hey, I'm going to send you a couple of links." So when CERN sent me the links, and I listened to Glenn's voice and to the songs, I was like, "This is me. This is totally me. I'm in."
Did you, from those links, were you able to figure out how big of a dude he was, or were you just into listening?
Oh yeah. Right away.
Question with that: you're living in LA at the time. You have a guitar player that's in Copenhagen, and then
No, I'm in Sweden at the time.
Okay, so I made it.
I moved back from the States. Yeah, I moved back to Sweden. Actually, they threw me out because of visa problems, but that's another story.
Yeah.
How did they catch on to that? Actually, we'll get to that another time because I'm really curious how they
Let's not
even
talk about that.
They saw him at a show. Let's leave it at that.
They're like, he's too good. We got to get him out of here so we don't have the competition. He's out.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I got the links and I was really happy. And I said to CERN that this is totally me. I want to do this. But Chad Smith wanted to do the tour that was coming up, and Matt Sorum was supposed to do that tour. I didn't know that.
Jeez, little competition.
Right. But for some reason, the management called me up and said that we have one gig in Serbia, and I see that as my audition, But according to Glenn, I was in the band already, but not for me. I wanted to play with them before I'm Swedish that way, which means that I don't take anything for granted at all.
Yeah.
So I flew down to Serbia. It was a one-off gig, and no rehearsal. 21,000 people in the crowd.
How many songs? You have to
I can't remember. 2 hours. A 2 hour show.
And you guys never
no
rehearsed.
rehearsal.
No rehearsal.
Wow.
Are there in Glenn's stuff when you guys play? Is it just like start finish, or are there jams in the middle, or is there anything that you were like, okay, I hope to fucking God I don't fall off the fucking tracks here?
What happened was that we stayed in Belgrade, right? At this hotel, fancy hotel. I met Glenn the night before the show. He said, "Hey, welcome to the family. I've been checking you out, and I love you already." And we had a dinner, and so I I asked him, "Okay, so who's your favorite drummer?" The biggest mistake ever coming from me, because Glenn said, "Well, I've been fortunate enough to have worked with many of my favorite drummers." And he started name dropping,
Give me.
Everybody in the business, from rock to soul to R&B. But anyways, we had that dinner, and the day after, I took a Glenn wanted to come later to the sound check. It was a 3 hour drive, to the place
To the sounds.
where we were playing, right, from Belgrade. And I was in
Why
the
didn't you
car.
stay closer, I wonder?
I don't know.
Makes no sense.
No, I don't know. But anyways, that driver drove so fast. And our keyboard player, Anders Olinder, also Swedish guy, he lives in Bristol, England. So we don't speak Swedish to each other. For 30 years he's been living in England, which is a good thing. That we don't speak Swedish, because Glenn is not Swedish and Søren is not Swedish. So it's a good thing. And I'm used to speaking English. So we're in the car. The driver drives so fucking fast. So Anders is like, please, sir, calm down. Please drive slower. We have to work when we get there, and we have to be alive when we get there.
Yeah.
His reply was, "It's okay. I used to be a rally driver." Well, that doesn't help, does it?
Yeah.
So we rolled around in the back there, like, hey, holy shit,
gear flying everywhere.
Yeah. And at one point, Anders told me that, now when we get to the stage, we get to do a sound check. But when Glenn gets there, if there's people there, Glenn doesn't want to play the songs that we're going to play, because he doesn't want, the people to hear what's coming up. So we got there, and of course there was a lot of people there. It's a festival, and we were headlining, and there's all. I think it was only one stage. So I did a drum sound check, and Glenn came in a limousine and walked up on stage, rock star as he is, and we started jamming. Funk, just jam. And that was nice, but it really didn't help me because I didn't know the live versions, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right? Endings, intros, outros. So I, after the sound check, Glenn walked up to me and said, "Hey, of course we're going to talk about the songs now. We have a 5-star hotel. We have day rooms up in the mountains. And so we're going to drive there, and, we're going to relax for a bit. And then, we're going to have the talk about, the show." And I said, great. So he jumped into his limousine, and I jumped into my fucking rally driver from Serbia in a Audi RS6 or whatever, the fastest car. So I'm in the car, and he takes off to the left, and Glenn and the other guys takes off to the right. I didn't see this, but I ended up in a farm somewhere in Serbia.
Oh, geez.
And
Were the other guys in the band with you, or were they with Glenn?
Glenn, Søren, and Anders went up to the mountains to this 5-star hotel, had a 5-course dinner,
And you're like,
and
what the heck? So everybody gets in the limousine, goes to one place. You get in with Speed Racer guy, and you go to the wrong place.
Yes.
What was the place he took you to? Did it have anything to do with the festival, or was it just a random farm?
I think the promoter wanted to have the band there so they can taste the Serbian food, whatever,
Yeah.
It was a huge misunderstanding.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I asked the driver, who could barely speak any English at all. I'm like, where's my band? I need to talk to Glenn. I'm the new guy. It's okay. You eat. No, you don't get it. My
anxiety would be through the roof.
I managed to say, promoter. Okay. So we call the promoter, half Canadian. He's at the 5-star hotel eating a 5-course dinner with Glenn and the guys.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I got to talk to him. So, hey, Sergey or whatever his name was, what's going on? Oh, I'm so sorry, Pontus. Huge misunderstanding. But, we're going to see you at, backstage before the show. I'm like, no, you don't get it. I'm the new guy. Yeah, that's right. You're the new guy. Yeah, that's right. Do you know what? Your driver that you have there, he's an ex-rally driver.
I know.
Shit.
Shit, Einstein, I know. So, I'm going to tell him to drive really fast up the mountain so you can switch cars and go over the show inside the limousine on, down to the show, to the festival area, which he did. If he gets an order to drive fast,
he does.
He did.
Well, that he understood.
I still had my sound check clothes on. I'm exhausted. We switched cars, and Glenn said, "I'm so sorry for this misunderstanding." Anyways, the first song starts like this, ends like that. Second song, third song, blah 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 blah. I don't have a piece of paper. I don't have a pen. I don't want to read. I know how to read, but I don't want to read because it's a rock show. So I'm like, okay, ba-ba-da-boom, okay, and it's like that, and blah 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 blah. So I learned the show. Police escort down the mountains in a limousine with Glenn and the guys. Came down to the stage, 21,000 people in the crowd, and after 15 minutes, we started the show, and I can't remember anything of it. It was like a speeding train, it just passes you by,
So what happens after this show, since the other guys are Matt Sorum or Chad Smith are supposed to do the tour, what goes down next?
Right after the show, I just left. I didn't want to bow or anything. I just left the stage because I'm like, okay, I'm fired. That's it. That was it. Yeah. Nice playing one show with Glenn Hughes, and now, I'm done.
Why did you think you were done? Why did you think you played bad?
It's no rehearsals.
Yeah, too much information.
Information. Yeah. I'm used to playing shows like that, but not like that. 21,000 people in the crowd. Come on,
right. You weren't able to ever get comfortable because you're always thinking so much. You had to constantly be thinking. Right.
It was hard. So I thought I was fired, and I walked off stage, and we were actually backstage. The other local bands couldn't come into our, backstage area. Like proper rock star shit.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm there packing my bag, and I'm like, okay, I got to take a nightliner back to Sweden, or a taxi or whatever. And Glenn said, hey, I want everybody to shut the fuck up right now.
Uh-oh.
Okay, he has to.
He's gonna fire me in front of everybody.
He's gonna fire me in public. Yeah, publicly, right? And he said, I want everybody to know that Pontus Engborg is the best first show drummer that I ever played with in my whole life.
Wow.
Then
the weight's
Søren
lifted.
Anderson hit me right on my shoulder, saying, you know what that fucking means, dude? That drummer. So
That's amazing.
Surreal.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah. Then we did one more festival a week or two later in England, a biker festival. And that was a better show,
Did you have a chance to rehearse for the second show?
For that either.
Yeah. Have you ever rehearsed with Glenn Hughes is the question after all these years.
But I almost missed the cue. We were playing this song called Mistreated, a Deep Purple song called Mistreated. And he has a vocal thing in there, beautiful. He's Glenn Hughes. Come on. So it's on the keyboard and Glenn. And the first show, I was sitting behind the drum kit, and I see Søren walk off stage during that moment. And, it looks cooler if I'm not there. If I'm, side stage waiting for the cue to happen so we can finish the song. I thought, okay, I'm going to, go to the left-hand side of the stage, side stage and wait for the cue. And Søren was on my right-hand side. But, he doesn't have a chord. I mean, he's chordless, so he can just play that note
he doesn't have
on
to
his
be
guitar.
Physically.
I have to be physically behind the drum kit
Yeah.
when Glenn goes, I've been losing my mind,
Yeah.
I heard that cue when I was side stage.
Oh, no.
Just threw a stick and hoped you hit the right drum.
And so fast. I was in the air. That I've been losing my mind. Right. If I missed that cue, I wouldn't have gotten the gig.
He would have called everybody into the backstage after the second gig and been like, the best first show drummer is the worst second show
It's
drummer.
the worst.
How long did you play with Glenn Hughes for?
I'm still his drummer.
Oh, you are?
Cool. Excellent.
Oh yeah. He doesn't tour solo now. It's with the Dead Daisy.
I thought I saw a picture when we were doing some research from like 2019 that had a different guy play.
Yeah, because that was another project called Glenn Hughes Classic Deep Purple Live.
Okay,
gotcha.
so why did he switch the band up for that?
Sound.
Yeah.
I've been with Glenn for almost 10 years.
He was only in Deep Purple for a couple of years, I believe.
Like 3 years.
3. Yeah.
3 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Uh,
Wow. So, okay, let me ask you this. Through all the years of playing with Glenn Hughes, give me a couple of highlights that just pop.
I gotta say Sweden Rock though. I mean, that's one of them because my mom was there.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that is awesome.
I always wanted to play Sweden with Glenn. I always wanted to show my family and my friends who I'm working with, and
Was that the only time you guys played Sweden through all those years?
We played Sweden one time after that.
What do you do besides just besides Glenn Hughes? What other stuff have you done through the last 10 years?
When I didn't tour with Glenn, I toured with this band Legend, Voices of Rock.
Was that the thing with Joe Lynn Turner?
Joe Lynn Turner, he joined. The first tour we did was that tour that I told you about in Japan.
Right.
With Fergie Fredrickson, Steve Argari, Bill Champlin, and Bobby Kimball.
That is pretty wild. So, would you consider yourself a hired gun, or because you stay places long time? So,
I'm a hired gun, but when you get me, you get me. I'm there.
Right. No.
Yeah, for sure.
No. So, we took notice, and I really this next thing's really cool because I've actually thought about doing it myself. I myself am a very big dreamer, as we all are. We're all like guys who play music and travel around doing it, and that's what we love to do. And I think you got to be a dreamer to get to that level to be able to make that happen. So sure. I've thought through the years about doing encouragement speaking and stuff like that, and we've noticed that you go out and you do conferences and stuff and talk to people about dreams, which I think is fucking amazing. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
It's a lecture, but it's also a clinic.
A drum clinic or just a clinic in general? Well,
it started out just a clinic. But, when I have time, I love to do that, especially high schools, because then you can, people have dreams, they're not grown ups yet. They have a certain path or they don't know which path, to go, and you can.
Do you find you run into, because this will be an interesting to find out, coming from an American and a Swedish guy. Here in America, I think a lot of kids who have dreams are told pretty much by society, it's a pipe dream, it ain't going to happen. You got to do this. You got to work 9 to 5. You got to have stability, this, that, and the other thing. Now, let's be real. As musicians, stability isn't the most common thing that comes around, and it's a risk that we all take when we get into this line of work.
It's the same. It's the same here.
Is it the same? Okay, so that's my question. Because I know that the Swedish government supports art differently than the American government. I know they provide rehearsal rooms and things like that. Where and I gather they're smart enough to see what ABBA financially brought to the country, and they're like, there's a lot of money to be made in the arts, so we might as well support it. We don't get even that here. It's like if you're Dave Grohl, you're awesome. If you're not Dave Grohl, you're a loser. There doesn't seem to be much in the overall perspective. If it's
right.
You're a musician. Oh,
right.
What else do you do?
Right. Exactly. Okay, so what's your job?
Yeah, I hate that question.
Yeah, but you do that for fun. That's your hobby, right? But
when they use the word hobby, that'll fucking send me over the fucking deep end.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's a nice hobby. So what do you really do? You motherfucker.
Yeah, what do you really do?
Yeah. In all of the years with Glenn Hughes, what was your favorite show?
I can say my favorite tour, the American 2016 tour.
Cool.
A power trio tour, and we had a great management, a great tour bus, a great driver, a great monitor engineer, and we had a great front of house. I mean, everything was just spot on, and everyone was happy.
Would that be the same lineup and timing of Sweden Rock Festival when we saw you?
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
When we saw you at Sweden Rock
Festival.
Festival.
An American... what's that?
Well, I was going to say, when we saw you at Sweden Rock Festival, how long had that tour been going on for, and how long did it continue after?
We did Sweden Rock, and then we played Hellfest, and then we recorded Glenn's album. So we did Sweden Rock, we played Hellfest, and then we flew to the studio in Denmark to record his album. And then I think we had 2 or 3, maybe a month off. And I said to Glenn, when I left the studio, I said, "Hey, I'll see you in the States." And he said, "What? You want to sit on my face?" But I can't really say one show. Okay, Sweden Rock, because, like I said, my mom was there.
Yeah, good answer.
That's awesome. All right, final question, Pontus. Appreciate you taking the time and sitting with us. We'll let you get back to your family here. But
it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, man.
It's been awesome.
It's been fun.
Awesome.
As a motivational speaker, I'd like you to leave us with some parting words.
Well, I used to say that never have a plan B until COVID arrived.
That's a good one. You made Jonny lose it over here.
It's just the way. No, I agree with that 100%, because I always say, if you have a plan B, that means you're doubting yourself and you're never going to get there. If you give yourself one option, that's it. You have to make it, and if you don't,
otherwise you will end up doing plan B. So
right, yeah, you gave yourself an out. Giving yourself a backup plan is giving yourself an out. And once you give yourself an out, then you're not in it 150%. And if you're not in it 150%, you'll never get to where you want to go. So that's the thing that blows me away, is people need to realize it takes a lot of hard work, no matter what it is, whether you want to be a drummer, whether you want to be a guitar player, whether you want to be an accountant, whatever it is you want to be, 2 things come with it: hard work and fucking being in the right place at the right time. And that's why, and we'll end it with this, the Robert Evans quote is always the fucking best quote ever. Preparation plus opportunity equals success. And on that note, Pontus, I love you.
Yeah,
it's been amazing to see you. Hopefully I'll see you this summer, because I'm definitely going to be over there this summer. I just don't know if I'm going to make it to Gothenburg. But I love you, man.
We'll see.
And
I love you too. I love you too.
Yes.
Ryan, it's been a pleasure.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Give your son some bellies for me. Belly, 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 belly.
You know.
Awesome, brother. I'll talk to you.
See you, buddy.
See ya. Thank you, Pontus, for joining us this week. That was great. Everybody, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, report, follow. Yeah, maybe you like Ryan likes to follow.
There, it doesn't have to be all doom and gloom.
The most important thing about all that is reporting us. So everybody, whateverbuddy.com, check that out, and come back next week for another episode on Whatever Buddy Wednesday of the Whatever Buddy podcast. Until next week, have a great week.